Okay, yeah, okay. All right. Okay. That's all right. We got this all figured out. All right. Let me know when I'm on, Michael. All right. Welcome to destinationfreedom.org. Glad you're on for our live show. And the show, like, we'll endeavor to, whether this, we'll work a balance between entertaining and informative. We'll try to stress more informative than entertaining. But, if we have a good time doing this, that'll be great. So I just want to invite you that if you have questions about anything that we're talking about, state versus federal citizenship, our passport process, any of our services and all that, you certainly can ask those questions while we're live on the broadcast. Um, but afterwards, once we post the video, if you have questions, you can certainly ask questions in the chat, or where you can post those comments, and we'll follow up and answer those in the video, or we'll direct you where you can find the information to help you along your way. Thank you for being on today. I don't know if you're watching from Facebook or YouTube. I just want to remind you that we do have a BitChute channel, and we typically will have links for that. I wanted to mention that on the website, we do have a series of links that are on there. You can copy and paste them and use them that way. But we will, before the night's out, we will get those as hyperlinks, so you can just click on them and get to those channels. So we'll definitely change that. And before I go on, I want to share my appreciation and thanks to Amma, my assistant, who painstakingly helps me along the way, and keeps our schedule going, how much we're interacting with clients and things like that. So I'm grateful for that. Doing some traveling, which has been great. I'm enjoying that whole process, and I'm also thankful for my son Michael, who is working hard behind camera and doing production stuff and web and all sorts of media related things. Really helps a lot. I'm not very knowledgeable about those areas, but it really brings me a lot of comfort to have that kind of support. So I'm really grateful for that, and I appreciate you when or if you interact with them. I'm thankful that they can be of assistance to you, and they're certainly like the tip of the spear for the work that we're doing, and they bear up a lot of responsibility. So again, I'm grateful. So tonight we will. I'm going to just talk a little bit about just some of what I was dealing with in California. Won't be too specific with respect to the client and those things, but I do want to talk generally about some of that because they have some interest in pulling out of the federal zone, and we definitely want to be a part of that. Also, the other thing that I want to mention is we're going to talk a little bit about what we usually see with clients and corporations and some of the work involved in that. And some of that can be pretty detailed. Certainly deals with how these companies deal with their governments. Some of that is with the federal zone. Other things are with the states. And because the states are not all uniform, they may have different statutes and codes that govern them. And so we have to figure those things out. Tonight's broadcast, I'm just hoping that you will like and subscribe if you have an interest in that. That definitely helps whatever algorithm we're dealing with. I'm not really sure how that plays out, but I'm thankful for those likes, and certainly if you subscribe, you'll at least get a notification that we're going to do these broadcasts. And we're morphing and endeavoring to grow. We're going to work out how we're in studio and what that looks like. We have an intention to being on other broadcasts. I'm not sure how, or if we can obtain those videos. We may upload different broadcasts if we're being featured on other websites. So one of the things that I want to talk about is some of our plans that we have. And some of that is doing and going to an Acapulco in Acapulco, Mexico. And they recently had some bad weather, and our heart goes out to those people that live there. Some of those people are our friends and people that we've met going to Acapulco for the annual Acapulco event. And Jeff Berwick with the Dollar Vigilante, he has a fundraiser, and they're raising funds for those people there that were devastated. Same thing as just like people in North Carolina were inundated with flooding. I was there in North Carolina. Yes, Jim, I was there no, I didn't get any video of that. Actually, I was doing this kind of a men's interactive conference. I was actually doing push-ups in the parking lot of a hotel as part of the rigor, and we were going to do that regardless of the weather. So the wind it was raining and windy and all that stuff, and it was kind of fun. So that was going on, but that was in North Carolina at the time that hurricane was hitting. Also, you got the puppy dog here. You can't. Should I grab the camera? No, I won't grab the camera. I'll have to have the dog jump up. Anyway, all right, go sit down. Let's go. The dog's starstruck. We have a dog in the office. The dog's name is Dottie, and so she's always hanging out and is always greeting people. That's a lot of fun. So it's a good energy. This is an Amos dog. So that's nice. So some of the things coming up is we intend to be in Acapulco in February. I believe that's, Michael, isn't that February 15th?
Yeah.
Through like the 22nd, that week. So I cordially invite you to join us there. We intend to do a live class in Acapulco. After I'm going to be speaking from the main stage, hopefully. We're working out those details. So we would love to have drinks with you, maybe do some dining in Acapulco, Mexico. It's really not that expensive to enjoy that time there. I mean, certainly travel is as expensive as it is, but you can really, there's all kinds of ways to get there. You could actually take a bus from Tijuana and drive down to Acapulco if you wanted to fly into LA and just cross border there. A lot of people do that. But we definitely would like to see you. And if you would like to hang out, we'll have a great time being together. So again, that's coming up in February. Afterwards, in April, and I believe we're all going to be going to that in February, so you'll get to meet the whole crew, Amma and Michael, and that should be a blast. Then we have plans of being in Lieberland in April for the 10th anniversary of Lieberland, and so we're looking forward to participating in that and seeing how that plays out. So we're making those plans as we are now. There has been some interest, and we're going to send out an email about January, wanting to do a class in Hawaii, the Big Island, in January. We're thinking like the second or third week in January. Those dates are still coming along. If you would like to attend a live class in Hawaii, let us know. We're making arrangements for that. I think we have some housing available. If you'd like to be close, we'll be able to hang out and do stuff together. And so that's hopefully coming up in January. So we're jazzed about that. So this last time, a class I did in LA, I think it's Santa Ana County, or it's near Irvine, California. Wonderful people there, had a great time, and the interest there was to be able to talk with these clients and some of the people in their company, their attorneys and accountants, And that was a very exciting conversation, because these people are trained in these areas on some level. And so when we presented the information that I did, they found it interesting and certainly provocative. And so we're going to see some of those people come on board and become clients. The work that is going to be interesting, I think, is going to be the greatest part of that work, is moving their company from being in the public in the way they have it set up. I believe they may be an LLC, or it may be some sort of corporation, of course. We're looking to help them navigate that. And so there's two types of government that we're needing to navigate, and that is the federal government and those particulars. That, I think, is going to be much easier than how they deal with the state of California. So that we have to look at. And when we do that, we typically are looking at statute and code, and even applications that people or the principals of any venture fill out, what agreements they're making. That's always, if you're looking to determine what the pathway is out of any governmental type of situation, it's very similar regardless of what you find yourself in. So typically, if we're going to investigate what we need to undo, you have to go back to the beginning and certainly look at the agreements that were made, what applications were filled out, what information was required, what was the state expecting, and what was the state expecting you to set up, what type of business. Many times people will set up corporations for the reasons that many people set up trusts, and that is to avoid liabilities of any sort. Okay, that's what typically the way people look at that. In the federal zone, the federal government sets up that when you set up a TIN, a tax ID number, or an employee ID, an EIN, there's a lot of entanglements with that. And so when the federal government's involved with the company ends up becoming a withholding agent for the individuals that are employed. That has to be undone, or we have to look at how that was all set up. And certainly the principals in the company or corporation that set it up, if they were federal citizens, then that's part of what brings them into having to set up those type of entities. And again, these are like tentacles. They move into different areas, and then the state deals with a particular entity because of who they say they are, what they're doing. Most of the people that set these things up never really read or look at the tax code associated with setting up a tax ID or EIN. In the state of California, or in any state, they are setting things up, or they're reacting to whatever people are setting up in the federal many times. I can't say that's every time, but it certainly is many times. So we have to take a look at those relationships, those agreements that were made in their applications. But even in that, we would have to be looking at the statute and code that governs those original contracts or those original applications. I don't tend to have the belief that when you fill out an application, you're creating a contract, because that's not really the way contracts work. I'm not a big fan, nor do I believe in what we call adhesion contracts. As if you do something here, then it implies that you're doing something here. There's a lot of that out there. I don't share that sentiment. Like I say many times in my classes, no one is obligated to fulfill any contract or agreement that's without their knowledge or against their will. So that's why you don't have to be afraid of re-examining or checking for errors and things like that. This process doesn't have to be, an emotional roller coaster or anything like that. You don't need to be afraid. It's actually very peaceful and empowering when you can just be going about from a number of places. Okay, when you're coming in any capacity dealing with the state, You would be coming in to saying, look, I just want to secure whatever rights I have that are in play. I want to make sure my rights aren't being violated. And two, I say, I want to be completely responsible for whatever things I need to be responsible for. That can be certainly myself, those around me. I can be very responsible towards, our business clients. Now, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about you if you're talking about the people that you're doing business with. So responsibility is the pathway, or I like to say the key to freedom. Okay, so the idea of you want your rights secured and that you want to be completely responsible for whatever that is, you want to do that. And if there have been errors, if you've been filling out things in a certain capacity, you want to just own your errors if there are errors. See, that's a certain level of responsibility. And so when you're coming at that place, you don't have to remember stuff. It's not a strategy to try to get an advantage of anyone or to deceive everyone. Always you're signing things under penalty of perjury as true and correct. And of course, if you're not in the federal zone, it's going to be without the United States. So the idea of that is it can be a process, and it may take some time to figure out what that pathway looks like, but it's definitely going to be the same pathway regardless of whether you're dealing with the federal government, the state, or even the county and the town. You're still going to come in and take a look at what were those original relationships and how were they set up. So that's some of the work that we do for our clients. Now, some of our clients that have corporations that, let's say, have 100 employees and all that, if they're going to pull out of the federal zone and begin to do differently with their employees, you see, that affects a lot of people. And many times, people who have companies, they're very concerned about the people who work for them, that they're not set aside or burdened and things like that. That's a very responsible way of being, especially with people who are serving you and helping you towards your business goals. So as long as people know what's coming, I think they can be pretty comfortable that, even though there's changes being made, that they're along for the ride and that they're going to do things maybe differently, but work is going to be very much the same. We're still going to meet the need of customers and things like that, but we may have different ways in which we do that. That'll be part of my interest in the help that we have for our clients to navigate that space. And there's no way at this point of saying that we know how that's going to go. Once we've done this process in different states, then of course we'll have more experience, or we'll know where the bumps in the road are or what we have to deal with. That'll play out. And so for me as an entrepreneur, I've never been I've never been concerned about the unknown. It's okay for me. I don't mind navigating someplace I've never been. It's kind of like opening up a gift. You're turning the page, you're looking what's around the door, or you're opening up a gift and you get to see the surprise inside. That surprise is nice. So that's sometimes the way it feels like when you're an entrepreneur and you're working these things out towards a goal of serving clients or bringing something to the market. So we definitely are committed to helping our clients stay out of the federal zone while continuing to do business and serve their clients without any kind of downtime. So that's our goal. So we'll figure out how that goes. And once we have success in one state, then it'll be very easy to repeat that. What I'm interested in is clients that may be spearheading this kind of work in their state. I can think of how I am with our clients that are in New Hampshire. And when there's an issue in New Hampshire, I step up and engage and deal with government. I have no problem doing that, having my client go along with us, and we deal with the people at these agencies or whatever, or hooking up with attorneys, sharing the paperwork we have, letting them know what we're going to do or what we're not going to do, and that's exciting. See, it's a craft to learn, an art to learn how to deal with bureaucrats. Now, we talk about that from time to time, but this stuff doesn't have to be a fight. And let me just say this: if that's the way you feel, if that's your expectation that they're after you, or that they have any kind of an attitude towards you, I'm surprised many times whenever we're dealing with government, if a government person gets emotional or uncomfortable, I'm always surprised by that. And if you're not being offensive or trying to square off with the government worker or whatever it is, it shouldn't be that kind of a process. It should be just a real peaceful, loving, kind process. You can stand firm while being kind. It's definitely a thing to know. See, these are things, skills that you can learn in dealing with governmental people. Because listen, never forget they're people. And love is powerful. Being patient and kind is always a good thing. Not that I'm a master at that. Keep it down over there. I see you looking at me. I can be patient and kind. I can do this. Yeah. So, no, really, I mean, it's a much better place to try to, if you're going to govern your emotions, I mean, think about that. Self-government. Wow, what a unique idea to actually govern yourself in a way that you're not offensive or what have you. And look, it doesn't mean you're always going to hit that mark, but you can always come back around, apologize, or step back in and say, look, we just want to make sure our people's rights aren't being violated. And most Americans understand those topics or conversations about that you want to secure your liberty, your freedoms. So I believe there's always a pathway, there's always a remedy, and you can always find somebody that's going to be able to help. And that's a very exciting part of the journey. So remember, Michael, when we went down to get your birth certificate, there's a video in our channel here of going down there to check out the birth certificate to see how much banking information was on the back as they monetized the birth certificate. Yeah, well, that didn't happen in New Hampshire, at least not from the guy that we were talking to. He said the statute doesn't support that or have anything in there about that. And we looked at the back of the paper. It had nothing on it, and there were 3 numbers. He explained what all 3 numbers are. So the idea of corporatizing you is not really a thing. That doesn't mean that because I say that, or just because it isn't happening in New Hampshire, does not mean that maybe a government is monetizing them, but that's got nothing to do with you, and you're not making such an agreement and such as that. So this is still in the topic of corporatizing things, okay? We believe that you can secure your rights much better if you're going to do business in your personal capacity. Many times when I'm talking to people about that, they always will say things like, can I do that? Like, do I have permission to do that? It's like, can you do that? Well, if you want to. Remember, we don't have the same limitations government has. We have a right to pursue our happiness according to the dictates of our heart or our conscience. You're the one that's in control of your own life, remember? So that's an exciting venture, but it does take discipline and responsibility. So that's some of the things I was thinking about, these corporate things. So we have a handful of clients that are in play right now that are moving out of the corporate into the private, and we're helping them. And we're delighted to do that. Sometimes it takes a lot more work than I expect, because I think many times that we can find these solutions quickly. But what we've noticed over the years, especially doing the driver's license and all, is governments. And I don't judge whether they have an intention to harm and all that. On some level, I get that there's that kind of corruption and conspiracy. It's definitely there, without a question. But see, the thing is, if you're going to be supposing or charging your government with conspiracy, you can't just you could certainly generalize, say like, yeah, the whole government's against me, or they're after me, or whatever. That's really not very sound. If someone is conspiring against you, that would be more than one person. You should know who they are. And then you should also be able to say what rights are being violated. If you don't know who they are or how you're being violated, and you don't know what rights are being violated, then you really aren't in a place of saying, I really am being conspired against. There's truth associated with that. So, do I generalize believe there are conspiracies? Yes, I believe I believe in conspiracies. And remember, I'm not using the word conspiracy theory, okay? Because the idea of a conspiracy theory, as long as it's not there and you're like it's just in a thought or an idea, that could be theoretical. But the moment that you move it out of the theoretical, or you have any kind of evidence at all about conspiracy, it's no longer theory. It's now the possibility or probability of conspiracy, which is a real crime. So getting back to conspiring and things like that, the reason I'm talking about that is because it's an important thing to check your mind and not bring that to the table when you're endeavoring to deal with your government. You don't want to pollute a good relationship with government. And I'll give you an example. Like the gentleman that was the assistant commissioner in New Hampshire, when I met him in his office and he asked for certain paperwork that he was going to pass on to the Attorney General in New Hampshire, he was helping. That's what he was trying to do, was help, and he did. The Attorney General's office got back and said our paperwork was fine, sent out memos to all DMVs in the state to accept our paperwork. Look how helpful that was. If I came in and just concluded that he was being an ass or he was conspiring against me and all that, I might have polluted that good relationship. Now I literally could call his office and say, hey, we need this or we're doing this. Those are great relationships to have. And mature, responsible people are always inviting people into better relationships. And so that's always best. And I highly recommend it. I had a friend of mine years ago who was talking about, looking for a fight. And so we shouldn't ever go looking for a fight. We don't need to do that. Here's what I can promise you. If you just pursue loving people and you're after securing liberty and freedom, you don't have to go looking for a fight. If you effectively are doing that, that fight will come to you. You don't have to go get it. So if there's going to be a fight, it'll come, but it doesn't mean that there always has to be a fight. So again, that's where you're checking your head and you're determining that you're going to walk in love, and it will produce much better results, guaranteed. So people want to be loved, and we can be responsible and mature in that capacity. I've always known from Scripture, when you study maturity, maturity is based in Scripture about your capacity to love those that are unlovely. So that's maturity. So if you struggle to love, then certainly you may be reactionary or be concerned. Do we have
Got a great haircut as well.
Who said that? Someone said great hair?
Great.
Hey, that's nice. Yeah, I went to the hairdresser yesterday. Yeah, that's a good time. That's like every 6 weeks. They take good care of me here in town. That's the nice thing. My lovely Dutch honey wife, she doesn't like it this short. She likes it to be longer. It starts getting some curl crap thing going on when it gets longer. I don't really like all that. But yeah, she tends to like it longer. She doesn't like the short, so it'll be short till it grows out. Some commentary on my hair. Yeah, that's important. Now that's the comic relief. You can go to the bathroom now while I talk about my hair. Okay, that's good. All right. Nathan asks, let's see here, how do clients address correct forms submitted to the federal state agencies prior to knowing about their state citizenship at the passport issuance or after a FOIA is completed? That's a good question. So, many times in the passport process, people already have passports. People have already done a lot of things over the years. And most of the time, people are doing things because that's what they're always taught, or they're going by tradition. A lot of times people just don't think about what it is they're filling out. You know this because how many times do people get those things that pop up on the screen that here's the terms and conditions? Generally people don't read those things, so they don't know what they're agreeing to. And of course, if you choose not to read them or you choose not to make agreements, then of course they're happy not to have you do their stuff. So people are always playing that out. So especially in the passport process, we will let the State Department know that this passport work we're doing is correcting previous errors on the previous applications. And a lot of times, a lot of the paperwork we do is based upon correcting previous errors. That is part of the responsibility you can take on, is correcting errors. And so there's no consequence to errors. And there's many statutes in states, in most all states, or in any kind of legal matter. If you're the one that catches the errors, there's usually no consequence. If the other catches errors in some capacity and they're brought to your attention, then there could be consequences, fees, or whatever it is. And we don't see any of that in our stuff. But that's the way that the statutes read with respect to correcting errors. So yeah, so once we do the passport process, for a lot of clients, that becomes the line in the sand, to where from that point on, they're going to be endeavoring to fill out forms, town, county, state, federal, correctly, reserving rights without, non-assumption, or nothing's assumed, and without prejudice. And you'd be able to visit that again if you want. Nothing's locked in. So securing your rights is all part of that process. And listen, nobody would be complaining that all you're wanting to do is be responsible for what you need to be responsible for, and that you want to secure your rights. Most of the time when governments take ground in your life, it's because they're inviting you to be safe, or that they want to secure you in some capacity, and therefore it's a privilege for them to serve you in some capacity. That's a lot of how governments take ground. So when you are moving forward towards responsibility, it absolves governments of those responsibilities of your safety or concern. You like my mug? My sister gave me this. This is a Washington, D.C. mug. The District of Columbia mug. So, that's a good thing. Sometimes I drink coffee out of it. So hopefully that answers the questions. Once we do the passport process and those documents, and you get your passport book and card, then we do the FOIA request, the Freedom of Information Act request, and we'll get certified copies of your passport file. So that's exciting. It's always nice to get those signed wedding signature documents from the Secretary of State of the United States. Right now it's Anthony Blinken. I think that his days are numbered. So, there'll be a new administration, or maybe not. Who knows how these things work? It's just a mess out there. For those of you that are interested in supporting the swamp, I don't have a horse in this game, because I'm not participating in that part of voting. I'm just going to deal with New Hampshire and deal with my county and my town. Not interested in the union. I think it's already toast. So, but you all know that. I've already said that before. So, do we have any other questions on the chat? Okay. One of the things I want to do is get a clock here, Michael, so that I can see so we're about halfway of our time here. That's cool. So yeah, so we can digress into any other topics that anybody have interest in. If you are interested in moving your company out of the federal zone and your business into the private, the pathway usually is that we secure the individuals first, and then we'll shut down that which is corporate and close bank accounts, anything with a tax ID number and all that. If you have a TIN or an EIN, what you're saying with that is that you're doing a trade or business which is the function of a public office in the District of Columbia. Now, if you're not doing that and you're not an officer of, a public official, and you're not doing you're not functioning like in the public, we're talking about governmental, like even in the District of Columbia, a public office, then you may not be doing a trade or business as the tax code says. So we pull out of that and navigate that and help clients to move out of that. So that's our commitment. So secure the individuals first, and then we come back around, and then we help people unfold those things and just do things in the private, which are where your rights can be much more secured. There was a question that came out that I wanted to just address, that came out recently. Someone says, if they pay for the full passport process and the passport gets denied and no solution to get it, will they get a refund? Yeah, we had a good time with that one. I'd have to have a qualifier with respect to that, but generally speaking, if we work for people and we do the work, then usually we get paid. So the question is about the State Department, whether they will deny passport or will give passport booking card. If things are as they usually are, we've had no one that's done our process, and there's a caveat with that, or an exception to it. Everybody's gotten passport booking card when they've done our process. The only people who have not is that if they already know, or IRS has communicated to them that they have greater than $50,000 that they owe, and there's also the statute talks more about that there's a lien or levy and what have you. The IRS would have had to communicate that there's certain taxes owed to from the Secretary of Treasury to the Secretary of State. In that capacity, the Secretary of State may deny passport. Now, if we do the work for you that we've done and we're committed to do that, then of course there is no refund. Of course, if we do the work that we do, we don't do charity work. And so we typically would talk to the client and find out, do you have communication from IRS? Do you suspect that IRS has sent documents to the State Department to deny passport? We've had clients not do a certified FOIA, but they many times have done just a general FOIA that's not certified. There's no cost to that, but they'll get those documents to see if the IRS has submitted some sort of a certification. But again, that's rare, and we don't usually see that. It's there. There's a different process with respect to dealing with IRS at that point. But most people, we have no problem that they get their passport booking card. So I would definitely have to qualify and find out more information about if the State Department is going to deny your passport. If you would know if you're dealing with IRS. If you're not dealing with the IRS in any capacity, there's no reason that you won't get your passport booking card. Well, there's another caveat with that. If you don't have a birth certificate or a certificate of naturalization, then the State Department is not likely going to give you a passport without that. If you're not born in the States or abroad to American parents or have a certificate of naturalization, there's no reason that you wouldn't get your passport booking card. Does that make sense? So, what else is going on? There must be some current event. I don't know if we digress into anything that's going on. Yeah, we're heading towards the selection, right? Yeah, how are you all handling all that? There's two choices. Neither of them are good. There's the idiot, or there's the if I say idiot, you don't really know who I'm talking about. Could be either one, right? But the idea is, I call the one guy, I call him the pacifier, because he's definitely going to do that for the American people. He's going to pacify them like it's going to be all right if he gets in there. That's someone who's not paying attention to what's really going on, the bigger picture of where the money is and all that. No president is going to interrupt the deep state. It's not going to happen. Not likely. You'll end up dead. You don't want that. So it's just, the money's too much. The corruption's too much. I mean, take a look. I mean, the president's barely in charge of the CIA, if at all, and or the FBI or the Justice Department. It's like it's just a mess. You know, they don't serve the people. They serve the deep state. What are you going to do? That's why I'm all done with the union. Make America states again. That's what I believe. So yeah, that's coming up. And listen, it's not going to be a surprise that we're coming down the wire here. Anything could happen to disrupt that event on November the 5th. Now, on November the 5th, I will be, wow, that's election day. I was going to dress up as V in town. People will be out and about. They'll think that's wild. Yeah, I'll be able to talk to a bunch of people. What we'll do is, what's that?
I look like me. I should dress up as me.
Yeah, you can do that. We have another question. Cool. Yeah, so you need one too? We'll get everyone. Yeah, there'll be the 3 V's. V, 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 V. Yeah, so no, I like to do that because I dress up, and I love dealing with the cops when I dress up as V. They always want to come over and talk to me. It's like, hi, you have some ID? I don't. I don't come out with ID. Yeah, I have no pockets. No pockets. Don't have anything for you. What's your name? I usually say V. Steve? No, V. Like number 5, V. So yeah, like, what are you doing here? So, you know, we're just handing out information, inviting people to a Freedom Fellowship. So we'll do that. You know, what we need in this building is a conference room. That'd be fun. But what we'll plan an event, and we'll hand out little paperwork, see if they want to come, if people are tired and would like to secure their liberties and freedoms. So yeah, that's going to come up on November the 5th. Remember, the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. So that's coming. Oh, we have a question here. Hey, is that another one from Nathan? Man, Nathan's got some good questions. No, wait, Nathan again. All right. Are any of the pages attached to the DS-11 bound in any way prior to delivering to the post office? No. I mean, what I usually do is, when we do paperwork, I never staple the paperwork that I'm going to make photocopies. So typically, if we get them notarized and things like that, once I get them notarized and we make good photocopies, then I staple the document together. That's usually what we do. We don't staple anything to the DS-11. The postal person does that. They will staple all the documents to the DS-11 on their own, but that's not what you do. So they would go and be a part of the DS-11. They're submitted with that. Yeah. Is there ever binding necessary? The only binding I've ever seen is when you get your FOIA back. Those are certified. Those passport documents are riveted, and over the years I've seen sometimes they'll actually put red, white, and blue ribbon through the rivet, and so that's a thing. And but they're definitely bound because they're certified, and every page is numbered. And so that, thanks for that. Oh, is that your question? Who asked that question? All right. Question about gold and silver on the rise. Oh, yeah, we expect, that's someone calling my personal phone. You can just hang it up. Yeah, of course, gold and silver is going to rise based upon how the dollar's falling. We were talking about that at dinner tonight. The thing that suppresses the precious metal is the fact that you can buy gold and silver on paper. Those are people who are not going to need or want to possess the gold and silver. So because of that, the market buys and sells without actually having to produce the precious metal for the individual. If you want to see those prices go up, then if everybody listening to my voice right now, if you own gold and silver on paper, demand the gold and silver, get it in your possession. That will affect the price, and of course the limitation of that, and it'll jack the price up. And the prices are rising because the dollar is falling. That's part of that process. I'm okay with gold and silver as a commodity. It's an element, therefore it always will have value. Gold and silver is a terrible form of money. Why do I say that? Because you're not going to travel with your gold and silver. Listen, never forget it was gold and silver that created banks. Why? Because if everybody's carrying gold and silver, you can get robbed, and then there's your gold and silver. And of course, that's what happens also when you're doing cash. Now, in your communities, your small communities, or communities of people who value gold and silver, people can change and exchange gold and silver. I do work for gold and silver, so it's not like you can't. But generally speaking, it takes a lot of work to mail or ship gold and silver because of its weight. And, in traveling, you're going through metal detectors and stuff. You don't want to be telling people you have precious metal when you're traveling. So, not a very good money. You want your money to be secure. Now, the idea of, I'm a big fan of cryptocurrency. Now, in general, we talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is secure in its own right, but it's not private. It's not cash because it's easily tracked. It's designed to be easily tracked. Why? Because it was designed to eliminate fractional reserve lending, so that a transaction would be this and that, and you wouldn't have this multiplying effect with respect to fractional reserve lending. So Bitcoin is perfect for governments and for corporations because they have requirements of transparency, and Bitcoin is the ultimate financial transparency. That might not be good for you. That's why I'm a big fan of privacy coins or cryptocurrency. And so, like Monero, Pirate Chain, things like that. So those are cryptos that are more like cash. So I highly recognize that. Oh, thanks, Leanne. I'm glad you mentioned that because I've been traveling and I've had an interest in wanting to have a client call. And that client call, it's my goal to send out notice and invite people, clients. Those are clients are not people who've taken the class. Clients are people who've done the passport process, that we would have a hold harmless agreement. Those are clients. This Tuesday night will be a 7:00 call for a client call that will talk about anything of the business of work and all that stuff. There'll be at this time, there won't be any cost to that. And so I'll typically stay on as long as I can. I'm sure we can fill up an hour, but that'll be for clients only, and that's by invitation. So if you're a client and you'd like to be on that weekly call, we will not be broadcasting that on YouTube or Facebook or wherever we are. That will be on either our new platform. What's that called, Michael?
What?
The new platform? Red something?
Right.
What's the name of the platform that we're?
Riverside.
Okay, Riverside is our new platform. So we'll see if we have a code from that. If we don't have a code from Riverside, and you typically have to download that as a program so that you can access it, we're going to endeavor to do that. If we don't or can't do that, we'll use the usual go-to meeting. But if you ask for, and you're a client, and you ask for that access code, we'll get that to you sooner than later, or at least before our call so that you can get into that call. And I'll have my desktop available so I can show things, and that'll be a very informative call, and it'll help clients, especially people are trying to reach me or want to get questions answered about pretty much anything. So there won't be anybody on the call that's not a client. So it'll be kind of an in-house thing that'll be helpful. So thank you, Leanne, for that, and I look forward to that. I have spent some time on your work project, and I have more that I'm interested in looking up. It's just, it takes a long time to go down all these little rabbit holes. But there were two parts to what we're after with respect to, and I'll just tell you what the subject matter of this is. The question was, moving out of the public to the private, can we help a company stop collecting sales tax? So that's the question. So there's a number of areas that we're after and looking in for that answer. I mean, there's one thing to see what the obligations are, and that's pretty easy to see. We can see the applications and things like that. We're not confused about that. What I was interested in is a remedy or a pathway to not participate that. It doesn't make sense. Most constitutions empower a legislative body to collect taxes, and it's limited to that. The other branches of government cannot collect taxes. We see the executive branch in the United States with fees and things like that. Those are still taxes. And some of those things you don't have to pay because only the legislature can impose a tax as constitutions dictate. So that's one thing. To enroll businesses, see now, corporations are all governmental in nature. So in that capacity, it's understandable that the legislature, by statute, can invite a corporation that is governmental in nature to collect taxes on their behalf. It makes sense. But if you pull out of the corporate and you're now in the private, I don't see how the legislature can compel you in your private business to collect taxes on their behalf. So it's not so much that I do believe that what I'm after is the remedy of how to deal with it or how not to come into that jurisdiction. So you have to impose that on your clients or people. So anyway, that's some of that, and some of that takes a while to figure out. But I will we'll have whatever information we have so far, Leanne, once we hook up and are on the phone together, and we'll have an appointment coming up. I'm not sure. I think it's like we don't have it scheduled, so I'll just reach out. I'll end up talking to you. We'll schedule that call, and of course you're welcome to be in on that that client call, and we could talk about things at that time. It may not, cost you anything. We do have different rates for helping specific things with clients from where they are to, be in the private. We have those discounts available. So anyway, just wanted to mention that. Stop collecting. Yeah, I'm not sure this, is that all that was there, Ama? She says not trying to stop collecting. Yeah,
This is what you're talking about earlier.
yeah, no, I get that. No, I'm trying to have you stop collecting. That's what it would be more of a blessing to your clients not to have to fund the sales tax. I'd also like to look and see by statute where the sales tax is being applied or what they're using the money for. Does it just go into the general fund and they divide it up accordingly, or does it have a specific purpose? In New Hampshire, they actually wrote into the Constitution that the monies collected through, I want to say gas, or no, the car registrations and things like that go to fund repairs of the roads. And the Constitution requires the legislature to use those monies specifically for that. Now, that's good governance, is forcing the legislature to be responsible for how certain funds that are collected are used. So hopefully we'll get to see that and get those questions answered as well. All right. Well, listen, this has been a great night for me, and I'm thankful for that. Hope it's been good for you. we'll see, we'll come up with something that will be interesting for next time. One of the things that I've been talking to a number of clients, and so what I think I want to do next time is to see if I can pull in one or two clients that have done these processes so that they can talk to you about how those experiences have been and, what that was like for them. So we may do some sort of a panel or maybe have them call in if that's possible. And we'll see if we can work out the logistics of that. And I think that'll be a good time. And if you wanted to see that, that should be a lot of fun. All right, well, thanks so much for being here tonight. If we can do anything for you, just reach out. You can always contact us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org, and we'll follow up and see if we can't get your questions answered and help you to come up and pull out of the federal zone. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a great night, and I really appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Take care. I was going to just imagine if I was doing this, just like, goodbye.